Why do you think that some attorneys are begging for clients at $125 an hour while others are charging thousands or whatever they want because they know regardless what they cost, their schedules are going to be booked? Well, it's the same reason that there's a large variance in price in any product in the free market, because there's a huge variance in quality. As an attorney, your duties are to research and present the case to the jury and the courtroom. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about some best practices on how to optimize your presentation to give you the best chance for success. I'm Barron Cruz, and this is the Charisma Matrix. The courtroom is a stage, and a principle that I want you to have in the back of your mind the entirety of your time spent there is the Tlh Triangle. And what that is it's three adjectives that describe how you always want to be being perceived by the jury and everyone else in the courtroom. And that's as trustworthy, as likable, and as high status. And in that trustworthiness component comes an element of intelligence, because oftentimes those things are seen kind of hand in hand. So how do we do that? Well, some of the basics. Our body language. We want to be very confident, cool, deliberate in our body language. We want our orientation typically to be the jury, sometimes the judge, but also early in that court case, we want to show that we're confident orienting everyone in the courtroom. We're a confident person. We're not afraid of anything. So we're going to take a short amount of time orienting all around that courtroom. Just we're making, quick phrases just to kind of show that subconsciously you're a veteran there. You've been there before. You're not afraid. You're not intimidated. Now, when it comes to orienting to the jury, you do want to spend a lot of your time oriented to them. But this leads me to the next point, and that's eye contact. While you want to be making consistent eye contact with the jury, you don't want to make anyone feel discomfort or uncomfortable with your presence. And by focusing in on one person for too long, staring at them in the jury, that's going to create that. So be sure that when you are addressing the jury and your body language is very oriented to them, don't be too intense, don't be too intimidating by staring at one person for too long. Now, your tonality wants to be in 4 components the majority of the time. And the bulk of those components is a confident, commanding tonality. You've got everything figured out. You know exactly what happened, and you're going to explain it to them. But some other little flutters of tonality that you want to work in is interested, surprised, and empathetic. And I'm going to get more into the empathetic piece and the surprise piece as we continue. The way you express your emotion in the courtroom is hugely impacting and swaying to the jury and everyone else in it. We want to use our emotions to our favor to magnify the attention when it is good for ourselves and for our case, and to dissipate and quickly remove attention when it's not. So let's use an example. Let's say you're in a line of questioning and you say, in your opinion, did your passenger know that the narcotics were in the trunk? And he says, no, I don't think he did. And your response is, in your opinion, did your passenger, okay, right on to the next one. No reaction, almost as if he didn't answer the question, almost as if it never happened. Because we want to dissipate that, right? That answer was not to our advantage. So let's say you say, in your opinion, did your passenger know the narcotics in the trunk? And he says, yeah, I think he did. Really? So he knowingly got into your car knowing the narcotics were in the trunk? Okay, so what you're doing by expressing all of this emotion when you get a response that you want, assuming you're the prosecution, you are doing 2 things. Number 1, people just tune in when emotion levels are high. It's just natural for us to zone in. We're creatures of deletion. So we see something out of place, a high emotion, we zone in. We want the jury, we want the judge, we want everyone to hone in on that. But number 2, we're taking advantage of mirror neurons. So what mirror neurons do in the jury and everyone else as human beings is they help us relate to other people by creating the same emotion in us as what we see other people experiencing. So when I hear that his passenger knew the narcotics were in his trunk when he got in, I'm showing huge surprise. I can't believe, why would he get in? The passenger knew? By doing that, you're going to create the same emotions in the jury as you're experiencing by doing that. It's a very powerful piece. Think of all the different ways that you can use that in the courtroom by transferring your state, by transferring your emotional feelings to the jury. This is what you want, because we all know that people make the bulk of their decisions swayed on emotions. Okay, a little tip here, and this is actually very powerful in not only courtroom but other situations, but specifically the courtroom. It's that the case begins the minute you walk into that courtroom. And you may say to me, well, it's just the bailiff and the court reporter. The judge and jury aren't even in there. That doesn't matter. Because the minute people start forming impressions of you in their head, say it is just the bailiff and the court reporter. They see you walk in, you look like a clown versus someone who looks really sharp. Let's use the latter. You look really sharp. You've got your things together. You're creating a very strong impression in their head. The minute they see that, the impression is being formed by these adjectives they begin assigning to you. So they think, oh, this guy probably knows his stuff. He's very confident. He's walking in. You can tell all his nonverbals are in place. They're not thinking that, but subconsciously they are. So now the judge and the jury comes in, and you already have two people who are nonverbally expressing that you've got your stuff together, that they respect you. Whenever you talk, they're looking right at you. And that rubs off on other people. Maybe not hugely, but enough for them to begin forming their impression based on what they see other people doing in your presence. So don't think that the first time you open your mouth or address the jury is the first time the case starts. No, no, no. It's the first time that anyone in the courtroom sees you. So be sure you're on your game the minute you walk in, because that impression is beginning to be created by people there, and it's going to rub off on other people in the courtroom. Now, obviously, the minute the jury comes in is the minute that it really starts to snowball, because they're seeing your nonverbals and they're seeing you communicate and they're seeing everything, and they're immediately forming their impression of you. Once you begin speaking, they're going to have 60% of what they think of you figured out, and it's going to be very hard to shake that once you begin speaking. It's much more easy to confirm the confirmation bias. So they're going to say, okay, this guy walked in, he looked like a clown, he was joking around, and now he's speaking intelligibly, but maybe, I don't know, maybe he just, it's just a front he puts on. He's not a trustworthy guy. As opposed to, before you start speaking, he was sharp, he was focused, he was competent. His tonality was strong. Now he starts speaking and he sounds intelligible. And he says, well, that makes sense. He looked that way. Now it just reaffirms that. So be sure that you're aware that the minute anyone lays eyes on you, especially the jury, you're being judged and that case is already starting to be fought. Now, another tip, if you're ever corrected by the judge, you want to never give off any indication of emotion. Never sad, never mad, never angry, never combative. Always indifferent. As if it didn't happen. As if you expected that to be what the judge said. Because anytime there's any confrontation between you and the judge, it shows low status. And that's going to hurt you in that triangle. That's one of the components that we want you always to have in the courtroom and the jury's perspective is high status. Very importantly, the tone I want you to take with the jury is one of empathy. I want them to feel like you're a good friend of theirs that's trying to help them make a good decision. Because the minute we step into that courtroom, the buyer-seller dynamic is in place. And unfortunately, as attorneys, we are the seller and they're the buyer. Therefore, they're going to filter everything we say through a lens of, he wants something from me. He's trying to persuade me. He's trying to trick me. He's not on my team. We want to crush all that. So we want to show signs of honest empathy to get them thinking both consciously and subconsciously, well, this guy's just trying to help me make a good decision. He's on my team. He's a friend of mine. No combativeness, much trustworthiness, much likability. So how do we do that? Well, most of that's going to be done through nonverbals. So when you speak, and it's very hard to explain empathy in nonverbals, but you're going to use very soft, friendly body language, tonality, and eye contact, much like you would if you were talking. Say your mom was on the jury, and your best interest is for her to make a great decision. Speak to her that way. An example of language that you could use to kind of give an example of the tonality you want to use is, I know this is going to be tough to watch, but you really need to watch it. Okay, you're a friend, you're helping them, you're warning them it's going to be tough. You're kind of in the, I know, but you're trying to help. You need to take them there. So you want to be very friendly, likable, and approachable. And when you're an attorney, you're naturally coming in not as likable and not as trustworthy, because in the buyer-seller dynamic, it tells us they're not trustworthy because they want something from us that we don't necessarily want from them. And if we find out we don't want it from them, then it's going to be completely combative. That's not the case. You want to come across as someone that is only looking to help. I'm passionate about this. That's only looking to help them make the right decision. If you've been in the courtroom for 40 plus years, you've probably figured a lot of these things out and established some of your own best practices. But if you haven't, and if you're looking to still improve, I would suggest you implement some of these. And what it's going to do is it's going to greatly shorten the learning curve. Because instead of blind trial and error by you just spending time in the courtroom and seeing different reactions, you're going to put these best practices into place and see the immediate positive reaction to completely wipe out the curve and be working from the top. Now, I would suggest you take a look at some of my other videos because commonalities between charisma, influence, persuasion, social dynamics are universal, whether you be in the street, at the grocery store, on a date, or in a courtroom. So there's a lot of commonalities that I would suggest you look for. And also, when someone's considering coming to you and you're considering taking someone's case, a lot of these mannerisms, trustworthiness, likability, high status, intelligence are attributes that they want to see before they even decide if you're going to take their case. Don't be one of those attorneys that's scraping to get by for 40 years. Be the guy that can charge what he wants, whose book is full, and start to have some impact in the courtroom.